I want to welcome everybody to the City Council meeting for March the 16th, 2021. And I'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with a roll call.
Hold on a second.
Well, while she's doing that, let me welcome KJIW. I think I saw Helena-West Daily World and any other media that might be joining us and any other guests as well.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Ms. Ford. Ms. Ford.
Here.
Mr. Franklin. Mr. St. Columbia.
Here.
Ms. Crockett. Mr. Etherly.
Here.
Ms. Davis.
Here.
So that's 4 present, 2 absent.
And they might join us later. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I'm going to take a little bit of license and announce what it's probably already out there a little bit, but it'll be officially out tomorrow. But thanks in large part to Senator Ingram and State Representative Day. We have sort of found an agreement with Entergy to be able to put this on the polls. And as of right now, we have the 2 skycops that were purchased by Main Street Helena with the grant installed now on Cherry Street. If you drive down there, you'll see the blue lights flashing like you see when you go to Memphis or Tunica or Clarksville or a few other cities. And then we will stick with the original idea about the 3-pole attachments with the USDA grant that Chief Smith wrote. And of course, we already have the 1 mobile Smith wrote a grant for, and then the additional mobile that the council approved. So that'll give us a total of 7. So we're going from 1 to 7 skycops. And the grant that was written for Main Street, of course, those 2 have to be on Main Street. But just for those listening, we've had a bank there that's been robbed something like 4 times, a restaurant, a school, state agency, and several merchants. In that camera, we have another bank, another state agency, and some other merchants being covered by the other camera. And the grant was paid for by Main Street or by the Department of Arkansas Heritage with a grant to put them there. The other 5, however, will be dispersed in the high crime areas of the city. And we hope, we can build on that, but that's a pretty good news. And I just wanted to share that. The press release has been sent to each of you and to the media. So that's a very good development. And thank you. I want to thank, obviously, Senator Ingram and Representative Tollett, because it wouldn't have been done without them. We've been fighting this battle for 2.5 years since before I became mayor. And so that's an exciting development, and it wouldn't have happened without them. So I want to make sure give them plenty of credit. So thank you. And thank y'all, the council and others, for supporting this as well. So, all right, having said that, we're going to move on. Ms. Sandy, do you want to do the minutes, February 6th?
I had emailed everybody the minutes for February the 6th and for March the 2nd. I do apologize for not having sent you March the 9th, but I inadvertently stopped working on them right in the middle. So we just have February the 6th and March 2nd.
Did I have a set of minutes that says February 2nd at the top? Is that supposed to say February 6th?
February 2nd. Yes, sir.
Okay. So the minutes from February 2nd and the minutes from March 2nd that were they're given to you. Let's just do we have to have a motion in each set of minutes, or can we do them both? Each set. All right, so February 2nd, 2021. Any questions on those set of minutes?
I'll make a motion. We approve those minutes, February 2nd.
Mr. St. Columbia moves. We adopt the minutes from February 2nd. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Davis seconds the motion. Any other questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Davis,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Crockett, Franklin, Etherly,
Yes.
Forward,
Yes.
4 yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. The next set of minutes would be from March the 2nd, 2021.
I'll make a motion that we'll approve the minutes of March the 2nd.
Mr. St. Columbia makes a motion that we approve the minutes from March the 2nd, 2021. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Davis seconds the motion. Any other questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Franklin, Crockett, Davis,
Yes.
Forward,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
4 yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the next two items on the agenda, remember treasurer report. Mr. Turner wasn't able to make the meeting tonight, and so we're going to pass over that. Also, Judge Jason Carter let us know shortly before the meeting that he appreciates the opportunity to appear before the council again on the issue of his district court deputy clerk. And however, he's gotten detained and delayed and is not going to be able to make the meeting tonight. And sends his regrets and apologies, and will let us know as soon as he can get on the agenda again. And again, he appreciates the time of the council. So wanted to pass that message along, but we will be passing over that item on the agenda as well. So the next item on the agenda, there are three items that deal with ordinance waiving, and under city code, anything over $7,500 has to either be bid, or an ordinance to waive bidding must be approved. And the first item is something that most of these, actually all three of these items were already approved for funding or for payment because they exceed $5,000, but they also exceed $7,500. And so we needed an ordinance to approve waiving the bidding. And those were not prepared at the last meeting. And so Mr. Valley has prepared those for tonight. And the first item of those three would be the landfill surety bond, which is ordinance 7, and I believe is in our packet. So,
Mr. Mayor, Joe St. Columbia, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 7, put it on the third and final reading. Reading title only.
Mr. St. Columbia moves that we put ordinance number 7, an ordinance waiving bidding on regarding the landfill surety bond on third and final reading, reading the title only. Is there a second?
Second.
Did somebody second?
Mr.
Second.
Etherly,
Mr. Egg gets the motion. Any other questions or discussions about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Davis,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Crockett, Franklin, Etherly,
Yes.
Forward,
Yes.
4 yes.
Okay, motion to put it on third and final reading is approved. Is there a motion for final passage? Is Mr. Valley on tonight?
I hadn't seen him yet.
I so move, Mr. Mayor, for the final reading. Final passage.
Mr. St. Columbia moves that we, for final approval of ordinance number 7 of 2021, an ordinance waiving competitive bidding in accordance with Arkansas Code annotated section 1415-303, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract to purchase a bond for the Helena-West Helena Regional Landfill for the city of Helena-West Helena and for other related purposes. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Edley seconds the motion. Any other discussions or questions about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Etherly,
Yes.
Davis,
yes,
Crockett, Franklin, Forward,
yes,
St. Columbia,
yes,
4 yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. And the next item is the Water Department Jones Hydro Pump repair not to exceed 34,000, ordinance number 6 in your packet. If you'll recall, this is the main pump at the Helena plant that went out during the water crisis that we had during the snowstorm. And we, like I said before, we approved appropriations for it, but we still hadn't waived the bidding for it. So the question would be to put ordinance number 6 on third and final reading.
Mr. Mayor, Joe St. Columbia, I so move, ordinance number 6 be put on third and final reading. Reading title only.
Mr. St. Columbia moves that we put ordinance number 6 on third and final reading. Is there a second?
second,
Ms. Davis seconds the motion. Any other questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Franklin, Etherly,
yes,
Crockett, St. Columbia,
Yes,
Davis,
yes,
Forward,
yes,
4 yes.
And motion passes. So the next question is final approval of ordinance number 6, 2021. An ordinance waiving competitive bidding in accordance with the Arkansas Code annotated section 1458-303, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract to repair certain property for the city of Helena-West, Helena, and for other related purposes.
I so move.
Mr. St. Columbia moves adoption. Is there a second?
second,
Ms. Davis seconds the motion. Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Okay, Mayor, when we finish the adoption, could we do the emergency clause on this one, please?
Yeah, did we have an emergency clause on the last one?
It was all right. We just need one on this one.
Okay,
Okay, Etherly,
yes,
Forward,
yes,
Crockett, Davis,
yes,
Franklin, St. Columbia,
Yes,
4 yes.
the motion is approved. So the next issue would be the adoption of the emergency clause to ordinance number 6. Is there a motion?
I so move.
St. Columbia moves. We adopt the
Emergency
emergency clause for ordinance number 6, 2021. Is there a second?
second,
Ms. Davis seconds the motion. Any other questions or comments about the motion to adopt the emergency clause? If not, call the roll.
Davis,
yes,
Etherly,
yes,
St. Columbia,
Yes,
Forward,
yes,
Crock, Franklin, 4 yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the, let's see, we have emergency enactment on ordinance number 7 that we did not finish up. So I make a motion that we approve that emergency enactment.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. St. Columbia. Mr. St. Columbia moves that we, this is going back to the
Ordinance
earlier
7.
ordinance on bidding regarding the landfill surety bond. Moves that we adopt the emergency clause on ordinance number 7. Is there a second?
second,
Mr. Etherly seconds the motion. Any other questions or comments about the motion? Call the roll.
Forward,
yes,
Franklin, St. Columbia,
Yes,
Etherly,
yes,
Davis,
yes,
Crockett, 4 yes.
Emergency clause passes on ordinance number 6. So we're going to skip to, was that 6 or 7? Sorry.
7.
7. So we're skipping to ordinance number 8, the last ordinance on your agenda there, under waive bidding for the Sky Cops, not to exceed $100,000. which again, we approved last week, but are there any questions? If not, is there a motion to adopt ordinance number, or put ordinance number 8, reading, waiving the bidding on the Skycop units?
I so moved.
Mr. St. Columbia moves that we put ordinance number 8 on third and final reading, reading the title only. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Etherly seconds the motion. Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Ford,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Franklin, Crockett, St. Columbia,
Yes.
Davis,
yes,
4 yes.
Motion passes. Now we're gonna ask for a motion for final approval of ordinance number 8, 2021, an ordinance waiving competitive bidding in accordance with Arkansas Code annotated section 1458-303, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract to purchase certain property for the city of Helena-West, Helena, and for other related purposes. This is regarding the Skycops.
I so
Is there a
moved.
motion? Mr. St. Columbia moves final adoption as read. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Etherly seconds the motion. Any other discussion or comments or questions? If not, call the roll.
Crockett, Franklin, St. Columbia,
Yes.
Davis,
yes,
Ford,
Yes.
Etherly.
Yes.
Now we have an emergency clause.
Okay, an emergency clause for ordinance number 8 on the Skycops. Is there a motion to
so
adopt?
moved,
Ms. Davis moves adoption of the emergency clause on ordinance number 8 regarding the Skycops. Is there a second?
I'll move a second.
Mr. St. Columbia seconds the motion. Any other questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Davis,
yes,
Crockett, Ford,
Yes.
Franklin, Etherly,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
4 yes.
Motion passes. Okay, thank you. We're through with the ordinance waive bidding and just a quick update. The Entergy, spoke with Entergy today, Chief Smith. And we've also spoken with Betty Searcy, who runs the USDA Rural Development Grant Program, which we've already been approved for. Ms. Ramsey has done what we're required to do for them to release their money. So to make a long story short, and Skycops, we spoke with them today. So we're hoping as early as next week, we'll have the other 3 deployed and pole mounted at least in the next 2 weeks. And then we also have the additional mobile unit, which we're working on, and we hope to have it in the next 2 weeks as well. But I'll give you an update in 2 weeks, see where we are.
Can you give me the prospective locations of these new sky cops?
Yes, ma'am, I can roughly speaking, but I'm gonna condition it by saying that it's not a final decision. These are just places that are being looked at, and obviously those are going to be your high crime areas. One is North 5th Street, West Helena, in Plaza, that area. One is North Helena, and I think the third one we're still talking about, but it'll be West Helena, or what we call what was West Helena in the Plaza numbered street areas. And then the additional mobile unit, that'll give us 2. And of course, they move around. So we'll be able to move those to some of those high crime areas. I don't really want to name them, but you know where they are. We've already had the one we do have there stationed in some of those places. And I can tell you anecdotally for sure that the response has been overwhelming. Well, y'all know that already because you've said it before yourselves, but the response has been overwhelmingly positive about the impact that it has on crime in those areas where we have put one, and we've only had one up until now. So I'm pretty excited. I think we all are. I'm sure I know y'all are. So, but that's to answer your question. Those are the areas being looked at. So we'll have 7. We're going from 1 to 7. That's a pretty big deal. And we could probably use 20, but going from 1 to 7 is a pretty significant leap. And I, it takes a team effort to make something like that happen. So everybody involved, including the council who appropriated money to match the federal grants, everybody deserves credit for what has been a team effort for over 2 years now to get this going. And I think 7 especially is a solid effort, and I think it will make an impact. And we've also had calls from private individuals in the city who are now interested in getting some themselves for different reasons. So let's hope that that continues. So, all right, so we're going to move on to ordinances for discussion. Another ordinances for discussion. There's a base pay amendment. Mr. Turner, as already said, is not here. He prepared the base pay amendment. I think with Mr. Valley. Has Mr. Valley joined us yet?
Sam,
Do we know if Mr. Valley is going to join us later?
I haven't heard.
I mean, we can discuss it now. I can tell you, generally speaking, what we talked about doing here is in this particular base pay ordinance, we still haven't adopted one for the statutorily mandated minimum wage increase. And we're abiding by it because it's state law. State law overrides municipal law. So we don't have a choice. We have to abide by it, and we are abiding by it. But we have not actually codified that in our base pay ordinance. So this ordinance does that. And it also codifies the discussion that we had about base pay for equipment operators. And I believe I think it's still the third. Did we stick with 13, 14, 15? That was the part I was going to ask Mr. Turner and Mr. Valley to discuss. And I'll have to look it up. We have, what we're trying to do is, I guess we can go back to our minutes. But 13, 14, 15 is what I remember. Did we change that last week or 2 weeks ago?
No, it was gonna say 13, 14, and 15, and the years would be judged on their time prior to coming to work for the city, years of experience. And then all of the other operators have already been adjusted.
That's right. I forgot. We had the discussion about whether or not if they came on as new hires, which of course, as you know, is what the base pay is. It's the starting pay. If they come in having that experience or not. And so that's reflected.
Mayor, Mr. Valley advises he's getting on.
Okay. And then the next issue is just to bring up, again, we don't have the treasurer with us, it's just to bring up the issue of salaries and raises again. And just to reiterate that I'm still prepared to honor my commitment before, and I'm okay with going department by department or moving forward as long as we're moving forward in any fashion. But I would like to see us, we're already into March, which is the first quarter, into the first quarter on a fiscal year, calendar year basis. We're 1/4 of the way in already. So So I would like to address the issue of raises if we can.
So when you want to address the issue of raises, or are we going to talk about the street and sanitation department? It's 3 people in that department, which is, the secretary that we have looked over, and what the 2 deputy directors. Are we willing to do that now, or what are you want to ask for what you want first? Because I want to make sure that we get, because
Well, first of all, I do want that. So, I mean, that was included in my budget when I submitted it. So what I prefer is that we restore those raises that were in that budget.
Well, can you tell me what in your budget now, in your budget that you submitted, what are those numbers? Who are you asking for raises for? Give me those numbers. Refresh my memory on your budget that you wanted passed. Give me those numbers. What are the salaries that you're wanting for your budget? The people in your budget, what the numbers are in those salaries? What those salaries are?
Well, we discussed one of them last week, and I would like to include the chief of staff in that. She's the reason we got the $400 and something thousand in CARES Act money that's been talked so much about, and
Okay.
continues to have to do with that. And she deserves it, and she merits it. And she's all these people, by the way, have been
Okay, man. I understand it.
as well as the deputy directors for the street for the Department of Public Works and Ms. Pat at Public Works. And we can do all that right now, and that would be enough.
Okay, but if you let me finish what I'm saying.
You asked me a question, I'm trying to answer.
But you're going the long way around.
That would be enough for a start tonight.
Okay.
If we don't want to restore it all, then I would start there if you're asking me.
Okay, since every time somebody talking, you got to go a long way around, and I'm trying to get
I'm
a
just
short
answering
answer.
your question.
No, but you still didn't give me the answer. You told me why they deserve it and what they did. I asked you for the numbers. I didn't ask you about how they got the money and what is well deserved. I asked you for some numbers. I don't care if they got the tea from China. I'm asking you, what are the salaries? What are the money? Put a number to it. What are the numbers that you're asking for? And we don't have to take all night to do that. Just tell me, what is the number? What are you wanting the chief of staff to have? What are you wanting the public works director to have? All these folks, cut all stop going a long way around. Just get to a shortcut. How much are you asking for these people? Let the public know how much you're asking, so I can determine if I want to help you tonight. And just a short answer. We don't have to go all the way around to France to get to a short answer. What are you asking for? What are the numbers? Now give me the numbers.
48,000 for the chief of staff.
Okay.
And the 2 deputy directors actually were requested, I believe, by Ms. Ford and some of our other, Ms. Davis and a few others. Well, and correct me if I misspoke. I don't want to misspeak there. But and I don't know if Mr. Jones is on, that he could speak to the salaries that he recommended, and we reviewed, and it's in my budget. You've gotten those numbers 2 or 3 times, and I gave you the chief of staff's numbers 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So it's still the same number. And now
Right.
Ms. Pat, I can't remember what we asked for Ms. Pat. So
Okay. When you can find, okay, this is what I got for you.
and I've sent them to you several times.
Well, you hadn't sent me anything, because if you sent me something to come from Kevin Smith to Chris Franklin, you hadn't sent me anything. So I don't know what you're talking about, but I did get a copy of the budget from Mr. Turner. So let's get this clear. Now, you saying
Well, that's my budget. That's
okay,
not
well,
Mr. Turner's budget.
it
That's
didn't.
my budget.
But you said you sent it to me. Let's correct that. You did not send that to me. And okay, you asked.
I had it sent to every member of the
Okay,
council,
well,
and I also had it put on the website for the city.
we don't have to, Kevin. We don't have to go this long. I'm just gonna tell you what it is. Now, a couple weeks ago, we got something that said that we had to use some of the money from the banks of Ozark to make payroll. Now, y'all always said that the city's not a hiring agency, but it looked like we go to spending this money as soon as we get to get it. I tell you what you want to do. If you can show me, like you always say, I said budget neutral. Show me where it's budget neutral. Now I'm gonna tell you, Miss Pat has been told she's supposed to get a raise years back. So are you gonna retroactive her raise? Because she had been promised a raise so long that everybody seemed to be forgotten. Now, we came made deputy directors and other things, they need to be paid. Are you gonna retroactive pay them for when you approve the budget? So these are things that you got to talk about. And how are you gonna pay for these? You getting? Are you gonna use the CARES Act money to pay for it? Show me how you gonna pay for it. Miss Pat raise has been since about 2 or 3 years, and I know she's probably looking for it. So I tell you like this: those deputy directors and Miss Pat, I move that we go ahead and get them their money tonight. If I can get a second, let's go for it. But I move to get them their money tonight. And you can.
So let me say this. It's the question about Ms. Pat's salary, as I've said, and several members of the council have also said, if we can see where that promise was ever made and approved by the council, then I think probably the retroactivity of it should be honored. But so far, nobody's been able to demonstrate that ever happened. But having said that, that promise commitment is still there, and I think not just for me, but other members of the council. But nobody's been able to find where that commitment was ever made.
It was made by.
If it should come out and be discovered somehow, then we'll honor it. But more importantly, going forward, I do support, and I've said several times, and it's in my budget, a raise for her and for the 2 deputy directors we're discussing, and Ms. Halbert. And it is budget neutral. It's more than that. And where the money is coming from is about a $600,000 actual budget surplus that the city enjoys without the CARES Act. And that's because of very conservative principles of management over the last 2 years, among other reasons. And I'm proud of that. And we should all be proud of that, because it's been a group effort. And we haven't been able to give raises. This year, we've been able to give a cost of living increase for a long time, for the first time that we'll be able to fund it all year and fully fund it in a long time. And we're also doing that on top of the minimum wage raises that have been mandated. Even though they're mandated, the state doesn't pay for it. We still have to pay for it. And because of the CARES Act, we were able to give a CARES Act pandemic payment to city employees this year. Or last year, which was all the work of Ms. Halbert.
There's a motion on the floor.
We are not fully funding, or we're not actually filling several of the positions in the administration. So it is more than revenue neutral. We're actually still saving money. So that's the answer to your question. And I would support any motion. I think to be fair, I think it should include the chief of staff.
I would deal with that at a time there. I just made a motion and you went the long way around. I just told you.
I didn't hear a motion.
Well, I'm pretty sure everybody else did. I made a motion. I made a motion to, hey dog. I made a motion to give Mrs. Pat and the deputy directors what was asked of them, to give them their raise. And the chief of staff, we can talk about that in just a minute, but let's get this done. There's a motion. I made a motion to give those 3 people their raise, and we can work from there. If I don't get a second, that's fine.
Okay.
I got a question.
We'll go for it. Mr. Franklin makes a motion that we adopt the raises for the deputy directors of public works and the administrative assistant for public works as submitted in the original budget. Is there a second?
Second.
Davis seconds the motion. Any other questions or I think somebody had a question, but now's a good time to ask it.
I had a comment because in that budget, that wasn't the only one. Diane Tyler had requested some. Nobody thought about Sandra Clash sitting right there in the same office. I don't know. I think we're gonna have to look at this, and we're gonna have to do, because it has to be done fairly.
There is an increase in there for Ms. Clash.
I didn't see it. Maybe it was omitted or whatever, but I didn't see it. But I I think she deserves one because she's running
Ms.
that seat.
Ms. Ford, would you be open to, after the discussion of this motion, discussing that?
Sure, I'm trying to find my budget now.
I would like to retract my second because I think I'm gonna go back on, I think we just need to go by department because this is too much. I mean, then and when you think of one person, then there's gonna be somebody else, and then there's gonna be somebody else and somebody else, and no.
Ms. Davis withdraws her second. So there is a motion on the floor by Mr. Franklin. Is there another second? All right, motion dies for lack of a second. So we'll go back now. Let me, before we move on, let's go back to the base pay ordinance that deals with equipment operators and minimum wage. And is Mr. Valley on now? I think you might be.
Yes, I'm on. What's the particular question? Good evening.
We're talking about the base pay ordinance, or ordinance number 8, that deals with the minimum wage and the equipment operators that we discussed 2 weeks ago. And Mr. Turner's not on with us, so I really wanted at least one of you on here to discuss the ordinance, since the two of y'all really drafted it. And so that's what we're talking about.
Right. Well, there's a footnote at the bottom of the base pay. We've had a similar structure for years since the enactment of the base pay. And the footnote that's on the bottom of it, what it does is it looks at $13, $14, $15 an hour. If you all look at the base of the bottom of the base pay ordinance, there's a footnote at the very bottom. When Mr. Turner had drafted, he changed the numbers. We had a similar structure before. I think it said 9, 10, 11, but now it says 11, 12, and was more than that. 12, 13, 14, or something like that. I don't have the ordinance in front of me right now. But
I'll read it, Andre, real quick. Equipment operators may be paid based upon experience. $13 an hour for 2 years or less, $14 for 3 to 4 years, and $15 for 5 or more years. Is that?
yes,
And then
that's what Mr. Turner, I don't have the document in front of me, but that's what Mr. Turner had spoken to me about and showed me, and I reviewed. And that's the one that's before you tonight. I don't recall any other changes being in there, but that is what you were asking. You all had discussed that before. Mr. Jones, the Public Works Director, had requested that, and the mayor also had requested, and that was change that was made to the base pay. That's the only change that I'm aware of that was made. Mr. Turner emailed it to you all.
So basically the two things to put us in compliance with state law on minimum wage, and then the 13, 14, 15 on starting pay for equipment operators.
Mayor, I didn't hear you. I was breaking up.
So basically this base pay, or we still haven't adopted the base pay ordinance to go on with fiscal year 21's budget. And one of the things we have to do is, even though we're already in compliance, as a practical matter, we have to have a base pay ordinance. Since we do have a base pay ordinance, and I don't think most cities don't even have one, but since we do have one, we have to reflect our base pay is reflecting what the minimum of what state statute is, which has increased now due to the state change of state law on minimum wage. So we never adopted that, and that's in here. And that just puts us, our codifies what state law requires. And the second thing is the discussion we've had several meetings now about equipment operators starting pay.
Correct.
So any questions of Mr. Valley or me on the base pay ordinance? Are you ready to move ahead with that?
I'm ready to move ahead with it.
You want to put that in the form of a motion?
I so move.
Mr. St. Columbia moves that we adopt ordinance number 8, 2021, the base pay ordinance as discussed. I'm sorry.
I think it's
we gotta
most
put it
have
on
to be.
third and final reading, right? Sorry.
Yes,
But I think
sir.
the motion would have to be suspend the rule, place on third and final reading the title only. Is that your motion, Mr. St. Columbia?
Yes, sir. I so moved for that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Valley. Is there a second? Is there a second on the motion? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Okay, so let me just ask this quickly. Any questions about this that we need to refer to Mr. Turner or bring back for the next meeting? Because we do need a base pay ordinance for 2021. I mean, I guess we don't have to have one, but that's the way we've done business, so. It's up to you. Okay. All right, so we'll move back to the salary issue and then we'll move on. If we go department by department, the issue, the first budget in the budget resolution is the administrative department. And so, you know, the way that works is, of course, I have immediate employees under me. And then the city clerk has immediate employees under her. Mr. Turner does not have any employees who are directed to him, but Mr. Valley does. John, think if I've forgotten anybody, I don't think so. Unless you want to include, I guess, district court, I don't include that in administration. So those would be that would be the first department up. Anybody want to comment or questions or motions or anything else on that tonight?
Mayor, we're talking about the budget that you submitted, right? I can recall it. I can't put my hands on it. The only budget I can put my hand on right now is one dated 1/29/21. And I think that's what the council, what we passed. I'm trying to find the one, so you'll probably have to tell me the amounts because I right now I can't put my hand on your budget.
Well, why don't we do this? We'll submit that budget or resubmit it back to everybody. So they're all literally on the same page. And,
I'm sure I have it somewhere, but I'm going through all these envelopes and I cannot, right now, this is the only one that I found so far.
That's fine. What we'll do tomorrow, just for the sake of making it easier on everybody to not have to go looking up and trying to figure out which budget was which, we'll send that one out and make it clear which one it is. And then y'all can look that over and we can just discuss that at the next meeting. Unless somebody else has a suggestion or a comment. So that's what we'll do then. We'll get that sent out to everybody tomorrow. And then in the next 2 weeks, any questions, comments anybody might have about those, feel free to contact us at any time. Okay, so we're going to move on to the resolutions. The first one is the banking resolution to add the senior district court clerk to one banking account, and it's resolution 4 in your packet. And I think we just need a simple motion to adopt this one, right?
Yes.
This is pretty much just a pro forma thing that has to be done. Are there any questions about what we're doing?
What's the resolution number?
Resolution 4.
Okay, Joe St. Columbia makes a motion for resolution number 4.
St. Columbia moves adoption of resolution number 4, which is a resolution to amend resolution 01/2021, making a change in district court signatories on the account as in your packet. Basically, allows her to do the work of signing municipal court bonds and fine checks and so forth. Any questions about, is there a second? I'm sorry. On the motion by Mr. St. Columbia.
second,
Mr. Edwards seconds the motion. Any questions or comments about the motion?
Mr. Mayor, the word Helena is misspelt on the paper. I noticed.
Yeah, it's he
More
and
needs to be
I'll-
corrected.
so we'll, as the motion to approve resolution 4 as corrected for typographical errors. How about that?
Okay.
Okay. But I think we'll make sure the typographical error is fixed.
Yeah.
And thank you for pointing that out, though. Any other questions or comments about the resolution? If not, call the roll.
Ford,
Yes.
Etherly,
yes,
Franklin.
Yeah.
St. Columbia. David,
Yes.
4 yes.
Motion passes. The next resolution, number 5, is a resolution on a CDBG grant. This year, we're submitting a CDBG grant to the Department of Economic Development in Arkansas, which administers CDBG funds for cities under 50,000. And East Arkansas Planning and Development District are helping us with this grant. And basically, we have to, in order to compete for the grant, we have to approve these resolutions. The proposed grant fund, well, what this specifically resolution does is authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute administrative contract with East Arkansas Planning and Development District to administer the AEDC block grant for a community development project. Doesn't specifically get into what that is. It just allows them to administer the grant, submit it on our behalf is the biggest thing they do. Write it, submit it, help us with the budget. Of course, we pay dues to the East Arkansas Development Planning District. We're members of it. And one of their responsibilities is to assist us with CDBG grants, which they have already done in the past. And they're going to do again this year. So that's what this resolution does. Is there a motion to adopt resolution number 5?
I so moved. Go St. Columbia.
Mr. St. Columbia moves adoption of resolution number 5. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Davis seconds the motion. Are there any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call roll.
Etherly,
yes,
Ford,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Crockett, Franklin,
Yes.
St. Columbia.
Yes,
It's 5 yes.
Motion passes. The next resolution, resolution number 6, is still on that same grant project. And what it does is allow a CEDP grant funds for us to submit a grant proposal to them. Sorry, my phone's acting up. It allows me to enter into an agreement with East Arkansas for them to actually submit the proposal, and it points out in the resolution that we're required to have a public hearing to take in public comments, which we have scheduled for, I believe it's tomorrow night, and we posted that on our website and around town. Is that, Miss Halbert, is that right? I think it's tomorrow
Yeah.
night. Yeah.
Yes, it's tomorrow at 5:30 at the Court Square Pavilion.
And we posted that, like I said, around town and on the website, and welcome any comments. But we have to adopt that resolution that says we're doing that. So is there a motion to adopt resolution number 6?
I so move, Joe St. Columbia.
Mr. St. Columbia moves adoption of resolution number 6. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Davis seconds the motion to adopt resolution number 6. Any other questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Davis,
Yeah.
Franklin,
Yeah,
Etherly,
yeah,
Yes.
Etherly, Ford, St. Columbia,
Yes,
Ford.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion approved. Thank you very much. So wish us luck on that, and feel free to show up tomorrow or send anybody or tell anybody you so choose. All right, that gets us through the resolutions part of the agenda. So the next is open for items of discussion. And these are generally items that people, members of the council asked or members of the city departments have asked us to put on the agenda for discussion. The first issue is the water bill. Mr. Etherly, you're on the agenda for that.
Thank you. And I asked to be on the agenda to discuss this item, and it's relative to what happened in February with the ice and snow. Our water bills are due on the 15th of each month. And if that falls on a weekend or a holiday or other day that the city is closed, then it's extended to the next business day. And so what happened on this particular, the week of snow, is we had snow. We had a holiday on Monday. We had snow on Tuesday for the rest of the week. And so the city didn't open until the following week, which I believe would have been the 22nd. And the way our system is currently constituted, the cutoff is on the 22nd. And so I think what we need to do is create a policy where the due date is extended by the number of days for the delay. I was gonna do a resolution. I'm sorry I got behind, and I'm still gonna do a resolution. I'll put it on the next meeting agenda, but I did want to kind of present it to the council. And what I was thinking is because in this instance, the due date became the next Monday, which was the next day that the city was open, but that was actually after the cutoff date also. So it puts the citizens in a position of your first due date is also the cutoff date, and it's beyond all of that time. So I think the policy should be something like if the due date is extended, then the cutoff should be extended by an equal number of days. And that was my thought on it. I just wanted to get some feedback on it, but I'm going to prepare a resolution. And since we're here, I'd ask that Ms. Ramsey place it on the next agenda, and I'll present something before then.
well, as far as my input is concerned, I think that's a great idea, and I compliment you on doing so. And I think we need to do that. I would endorse that. Yes, sir. In fact, we might make it where the mayor would make it retroactive, depending on, I mean, we got a storm coming up tonight or tomorrow, and it could be severe. It could be a problem, and any kind of thing that, like this heavy snow we had, could exist again. So yeah, I think we need to do something like that. You have my endorsement. Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree with both your comments. And I was the one who did extend it because of the inability of people to pay and waived late fees, and also we waived any shutoffs for February, all due to the complexity and problems of being able to pay your bill in person due to the storm. But the issue you're talking about, which is if it happens to fall on a Monday, that you take those things into consideration. I think that's a good point. So I would certainly support it, and hope we have that resolution on the agenda the next meeting. Any other discussions or questions about the water bill or the water bill issue? And I want to say, since we're talking about it, I think you probably all already know this, but when you have, I'm sure you know it, but we get a lot of phone calls and comments. I guess I'm going to take advantage of say this publicly because I've said it so many times to so many people privately, but who've asked me about it. But the read date on your bill, which is something I never looked at either. So I'm not wagging fingers at anybody. I'm just as guilty as anybody. But when we can't read a meter for some reason on a normal schedule, then when that meter gets read, the read date on your bill in the bottom left-hand corner tells you how many days that the customer is paying for water on that bill. When something like a winter storm happens, last year with the Easter storm is another good example, we were unable to read the bills on a normal billing schedule. So the bill might be for 5-6 weeks even when they get it, and they immediately have sort of a sticker shock, which again is just natural because nobody really studies their bills that closely because they're too busy. And I understand that, but I just want to say that publicly while I have the chance that sometimes the read dates are affected. In this case, we couldn't read those meters with ice and snow on top of them, not to mention the safety issues involved. And that was the biggest reason for the 99% of the phone calls about the water bill. But they're not going to be overcharged either. And we did try to make it as easy as we could. But I think the issue about it being due on that Monday for people who pay in person is a good one. I mean, I don't think you can distinguish. I think you're going to have to do it for everybody, not just people who pay in person, but it affects them largely more than others. So I think it's a good idea. All right. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question about the when are we gonna have a discuss? Well, I got 3 or 4 questions. Okay, since we're on the water issue, have we set a date to have a hearing for the water manager? And that's my first one. My second one is this: I noticed you were talking about the meters. Well, the meter readers saying that they can ride around in the truck. Well, we were told when these meters were placed down that they didn't have to come reach me. They just rode around, and they got a signal off the water meter. And then do we have enough people trained to read the meters? I'm thinking a lot of people need some more training on meter reading because it's a system that they have put in place that all they have to do is ride around and it picks up the signal off the water meter. Am I correct about that?
We have 2 people who ride around who are trained and are already trained and do a good job. And the signal, it gets picked up by the unit in the truck and reads it. And if a customer feels like it's incorrect, they have an opportunity to request a manual read, and they can be present when it happens. So far, the manual reads that I'm aware of anyway have all proven the digital system to be accurate. But when you have snow, then and ice, then the digital read doesn't work as well. And it's also dangerous for these guys to be out. So there are other impediments. Sometimes you can't get down the roads, so. But we have one in each city who drives around and does that.
So
Each side
thank you.
of each city.
And thank you for answering that question. So what about my first question?
On the hearing, the general manager position is being advertised currently. Mr. Valley, I think would be the one I'd ask to answer that one.
I mean, I don't care about when the position looking being filled. we have a general water manager who asked for a hearing and we have not given his hearing. And I think we need to try to schedule a hearing or whatever needs to be done. I like to put it on, have his hearing for sometime next week to go ahead and get this out the way so we can know which way the city's gonna go with that. But I'll make a motion to put Mr. Benzine Collier on, and somebody let him know that him and his attorney know that they're on for some one day next Tuesday. If that's cool with everybody, if everybody can meet next Tuesday. I'd like to see him on a special meeting next Tuesday to go ahead and hear that so we can get that out of the way.
I can't meet next Tuesday, but I'm going to use a parliamentary request and ask Mr. Valley to answer those issues for the city.
Let's get in again, Mr. Mayor. In our policy manual a few years ago, Ms. League advised the city council to remove, and you all did remove, the hearings from city council meetings. However, state law says city council can't override the mayor's firing of any department head by 2/3 vote. So he wouldn't be entitled to a hearing. He would be entitled to something like an executive session. If you hire the lawyer can't go in. He'd have to talk about it openly. Now, here's the one thing that I would say to all city council members as you go through anything like this. The law gives the city council the right to override the mayor. However, the cautionary tale that I would give, especially on the long history we have in the city of Helena-West Helena, it has never worked out to be a good thing when the city council overrides in this situation, because what happens is there creates an antagonistic relationship between the elected mayor and employee. We've had employees, for instance, we had a code enforcement officer who used to yell and get upset with the mayor and tell him he wasn't his boss during city council meetings and was open and defiant. We had other issues. We had members going back to the landfill threatening to fight the mayor. That was all when we were West Helena. But inherently in this, the state law is absolutely clear. We are employee at will state, and employee can be fired for any reason, good reason, bad reason, whatever, as long as it does not violate public policy. Public policy will be based on his race, his national origin, his sex, his religion, whether he has a disability or those things. As it relates to it, many times as we, include me as city attorney, may not agree with circumstances as to why a mayor fired someone, but that is primarily the mayor's call, and that's part of him being the administrator. Now, you all can give it, but it wouldn't be a full hearing. And typically, what I would advise you all under these circumstances is something very, very clear. Unless the mayor has violated state law, or unless he's clearly, grossly violated city policy, I always think this is a bad thing to put the employee back, because that's you're getting into the day to day. Now the law gives you all that. The law gives the city of first class, the city council, the right to do it. Typically, it has not worked out well. And I think the thing what happens is what happens in many of those circumstances is the person ends up saying, "Who is my boss?" And the city council cannot give him direction. City council should not be talking to department heads. Department heads should be talking to the mayor. The mayor, the way our policy is written, the mayor is charged with the duty of knowing everything about the city. Every check has to be approved by the mayor. Every employee has to be hired by the mayor. Every employee is fired by the mayor. The mayor is charged with knowledge. And many times we go back and forth whether the department heads should be at these meetings and et cetera. Your direction is to the mayor. The mayor should deal with his department heads, and you all deal with the mayor, and let the mayor and his department heads have his way. I understand that you all are politically, you're elected officials, and politics plays roles in this, and you want to do things right. But unless there's a violation of the law, the standard is he can be fired for any reason, good reason, bad reason. As long as he doesn't violate one of our city policies, as long as it doesn't violate the law, he can be fired. And so, contextually, I like Mr. Collier. I like him a lot. But this is the administrative decision of the mayor, and whether the mayor wants to work with him. And it's one of those things that I would always caution you all about. And if you have a hearing, I'm going to repeat this to you again, that I would caution you about putting people back, because ultimately the mayor has to make sure he has people working with him who are going to listen to him, or it creates major problems. And what I mean by that is this: the mayor doesn't need anybody that he's hired as a department head who's going to second guess whether he's his boss, or second guess whether anything, because they operate through the office of the mayor. They are there for the purpose of the mayor having someone he can call at a moment's notice and say, I need this done, or I need you to do this, go here, go there. And while we may not individually like what the mayor may do in circumstances, that is how he does it, is how he does it in his administrative role. Now, just because the law gives you a right to do something doesn't mean you should. You'll have the right to go forward and give him, it wouldn't be a hearing. It would be very informal. It would be something where you would actually vote as to whether to override. He doesn't even need to appear or have anything. It's an informal process. This is not a full hearing. We're not going to go into a full hearing. And again, my advice for you, whenever you vote for it, would be allow the mayor to hire who he wants to hire. Because here's the thing. For instance, if we complain about crime, the crime in the city has to stop at the mayor's feet, because the mayor is the person that chose the department head, and he's the person that has the right to deal with that department head and deal with everybody in that department. That's the same thing with water, the same thing with public works. And so you're getting to a situation where you would have a department head who is non-responsive to the mayor, and that presents itself as a very, very difficult problem. Now, even if you put him back, that doesn't stop you from being sued, because people can sue for whatever reason. Again, I like Mr. Collier. I'm not the mayor. I don't have to work with Mr. Collier as a supervisor, Mr. Collier. The mayor does. So I think that the strong emphasis to be given towards whether the mayor wants a department head to work with him or not. With that, I would yield to anyone for any questions or comments you may have.
But do you think that's fair to him, as every other employee has had every other department has had a hearing, and even though you go back and look at
let's pause for a second, Ms. Franklin. That was before y'all repealed that. Ms. League actually repealed it after we stopped giving employees hearings after the debacle that was Dwayne Nate Harvey's hearing. Because this Ms. League asked us to repeal it, because the city council took on a place of being an advocate for Harvey versus being a neutral, detached party. That video was very, very upsetting to the Municipal League. Remember, they covered part of the money for this. They had to pay half of Mr. Harvey's suit. And so after the Nate Harvey hearing, the rights for hearing were taken out of our policy, and you all voted against it, you all repealed it. And so the only reason Mr. Collier has a right to come is because he's department head, but he's not entitled to a hearing. This is an up or down vote. Do you vote to override the mayor's termination of him? And that's what it is. And many of y'all had asked me about that before, and I've told you all, if you want to do it, you have to have a special call meeting, and it's by the three of you all had to call a special call meeting to do so. And the thing about it is nobody ever called a special call meeting to do so. The mayor is moving forward with advertising. He has a right to advertise for it. If you all want to override it, then it has to be clear as to why you want to override it and what it is. But I would caution you again, if you place him back in the position, there will be an antagonistic relationship. I believe in my heart, because the thing about it is this: you've already seen how the two of them talk in these meetings, and if you hire him back in that situation, you have every right to do it. Every right to do it. I haven't heard any facts. The mayor has not briefed me on why he terminated him, and I hadn't asked the mayor why he terminated him. But I haven't heard any facts about it. If you all want to hear the facts and make your decision. But also make a decision knowing fully well that you're going to have two people who are going to be working together that are not going to get along.
Well, when can we hear the facts? I mean, we don't know. All we know is that after meeting it, Mr. Collins didn't know what was going on. The next day, we got a letter that he was fired. And I mean, you know, I think.
Mr. Franklin, let me interrupt. You all keep asking them, when can you hear it? You keep asking me when can you hear it? And I keep trying to tell you, it's simple. The three of y'all have to call a special call meeting to talk about it. I mean, it's not the mayor. The mayor doesn't want him back.
I have a question I'd like to ask Mr. Valley. Mr. Valley, is there a state law where we as a council, is there any law that we have to hear what the terminated employee has to say? Is there any law into that we are compelled?
No, sir, there's not anything where you have to hear any facts. The statute is clear that the mayor has exclusive right to hire department heads, but that fact is that it is tempered by a 2/3 vote of city council overriding the mayor.
Yeah.
And so that's what it says. And that's listed. Actually, that was written on behalf of the mayor's mother when she was the mayor of the city of Helena. And so it's specifically on point towards this city, but it affects every city. And so, but the thing about it is just this: it's one of those things. You all have to decide what your policy is going to be. Now, one other thing I want to caution you all about, as I always have to say at hearings, when the city council votes to make employment decisions on that issue, you lose immunity, and you could be sued for those issues by whomever may sue you. So keep that in mind as well.
That's the way I thought it was. Thank you very much for clearing that up. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm just gonna say, Mr. Bell, I'm impressed that you knew that. That's why I smiled, because I actually sponsored that bill in the Senate, and I got an award by the municipal league for getting it passed, believe it or not. And the reason for it, and I'm just going to speak to the legislation, that intent of it, since it was my bill, was, and municipal league asked for it, but the reason for it was to clear up a lot of problems in cities around the state and to make it simple. But I was impressed that you knew that.
Yeah, I understand all that too, but I'm gonna get with 3 other councilmen. I still want to know what happened. I don't care what bill was written or whatever. I just still think that it was some stuff that's not really, you know. I understand that what you're saying, Mr. Valley. I'm not knocking that, but what I don't like is how it seemed like it was all of a sudden a game. You pray, and we'll talk about that when I can get 3 more members to have a meeting.
It's just 2. It's a total of 3 of you.
Right. Well, I get 2 more. I would like to have more than just 3. I would like to. So I'm gonna.
But here's one I want to say too. I'm intentionally interrupting you because I have to say this. It has to be contemporaneous. You're advertising now. If you're gonna have it, you have to do it before the mayor hires somebody.
Yes, sir. I understand it, Mr. Valley, but I'm
okay.
Know,
I was just making sure everybody understood that.
It's just we'll talk about that. If he doesn't have any, that's fine too. But I think for somebody to be praised 1 minute and then all of a sudden, boom. So I'm gonna leave that alone.
Well, and we're gonna move on. No, sir, no, we're gonna move on. I'm just gonna say this. Obviously, you're prompting me to talk publicly about it, which immediately exposes the city to liability and lawsuits if I do, because it's a human resource issue, and I'm not going to speak to it publicly. And I don't care what you say at all. I'm not going to speak about that issue publicly, and you can't require me to. I'm not going to, because it exposes the city to liability issues. So it's not going to happen. So let's move on to the next item on the agenda. No, sir. It's not about that. No, this is not on the agenda. It's not. Mr. Franklin, it's not on the agenda tonight. When you get your other 2 council members, you can do what you want. The next agenda on the item on the agenda is Parks and Recreation. And that's under me. So let me discuss it. I'm certainly not the only one, even though my name is on here. Many of you on the council have expressed I think you've expressed to me a strong desire to see a return to a robust parks and recreation program for the city of Helena, West Helena. Many of you have individually been involved in baseball programs and youth programs and many other things. Because of the city's financial conditions and reasons I can't even speak to as well as some of you can, because I wasn't here, we really don't have much of one except for the swimming program that we get a grant for every year. And we didn't get to do that last year because of COVID. And on top of that, it was a bad year and a bad time to talk about parks. Because of COVID, parks all over the state were closed, basketball goals taken down or nets, all of those things. And it's unfortunate nobody wants to do that, especially somebody like me who campaigned on trying to bring back midnight basketball and reopen basketball courts. So among other things, and other sports and recreation programs, I think everybody, and not just me, but all of us probably have spoken many times about the need for that here for our youth, and the lack of it as being a major cause for some of the problems that we see. I think we're all of one accord on that. But like a lot of things, in a poor city, one of the poorest counties in the country, you can only do what you can afford to do. And we have not always been able to do that. So I introduced this on the agenda tonight to ask for some questions or discussion really about the idea of returning to a true parks and recreation program for the city. And that's, I'm for doing that, but before going the next step, would rather ask for your input.
Well, I have some input on that. If we one of the poorest counties in Arkansas that you always so like to say that we are, why is it that here we are, we got somebody in the Army right now that's using the Army, you holler about recreation, but you clearly we don't have the money to fund it. Where are you gonna get the money from to fund this position? I mean, you got $25,000 in the budget for playground equipment. So how you gonna fund it?
We have the money to fund it. It's just up to whether you want to fund it or not.
Show me the money. Where do we get this money from to fund it?
You're the one that's gone all over town saying we have $1 million surplus slush fund.
That's because you decide not to hire people in the police department. That's how we got that money. Be clear about that. Stop playing games.
That's an
You're
absolutely false.
That's how we got that money, because you and the police chief did not fill those positions. Mr. Turner said that, and I'm not gonna keep going back and forth with you about that. You know what's going on, and I'm not. And I'm gonna tell you this, because I'm so tired of you trying to cut me off. Let me say this. And you can mute me if you want to. I don't care about any of this foolishness. The reason why you want a parks person is because you made a campaign promise to somebody. And yes, you know who you're trying to put in that position, because everybody that you're trying to put in position is so you can get reelected. And I'm not for anything, unless you can show me where you're going to get the money from. You holler about we the poorest county. What are you doing to get economic development to this community? I get so sick of you as a mayor, you saying how that we're the poorest county. You are the CEO of this city. What are you doing to get industry to come here? Look at this. In your administration, the police department, they can't do, look at it. We have shootings every night. Nobody can let their kids go outside and play. But here you are talking about parks and recreation. What person gonna come to our parks? What person gonna come there and you still got Easter debris still over there that you hadn't allowed them folks to go over there and clean up? You sound crazy to holler about we open up parks and you still got debris over in Helena Park, trees and stuff still down over there right now. Right over there. People are asking you to clear off the side where the tennis court is so they can get over there. So you sound backwards to holler about open up a park. Look at the Wardell Sims Memorial Park. You still got stuff over there. And you said Dragon and William was gonna come in. They left. They didn't do anything to Helena Park. So you sound kind of like backwards. Show me where you gonna get some money at. We just had to use some of the CARES Act money to meet payroll. We just had to pay the unemployment insurance, the workman comps and all that other stuff. Be real. Stop. You like to tell the community fabricated lies that it ain't nothing. What you doing? And I get tired of you muting me out, over talking me. I'm sick of that. I came here to help you, and ever since you've been here, you like I'm a threat because somebody said Chris Franklin want to run for mayor. I don't want to run for anything. I'm on the city council, and that's what I'm trying to do. I get sick and tired. I'm trying to have a relationship with you, and you go off the charts and talk to me like I'm your child. It's about respect, and you gonna respect me. I try my best to respect you. All this other foolishness that you got going on, hey, you need me. I'm a vote to help you get what you need, and I'm sick of that. Learn to respect me. And I do the same with you, but I get tired of all this, this backdoor and playing these backdoor politics. And I tell you like this.
So Mr. Franklin has made his position on Parks and Recreation clear. Are there other comments from members of the council?
I'm just gonna
on
get off
Parks
this
and
quickly.
Recreation
I heard his
question?
feelings.
Are there other members of the council that want to be heard on the Parks and Recreation question, or they have questions about it? Or comments or input?
Yes.
I know a lot of you have a lot of work, have done a lot of work over the years yourselves, so I'm interested in what you have to say.
In light of where we are financially, I would like to see a detailed plan as to what it entails and how it's going to be financed, because truth be told, the excess cash that we had was due to lack of hiring in the police department. And if we intend to fully staff that department, it's going to have to come from somewhere. We haven't gone a full year with the jail open yet, and we know that represented a revenue loss for us. So I would like to see how it's going to be, I guess what the plan is going to be and how it's going to be financed, before I just jump in and say, let's do it. I remember when we discontinued the Parks and Recreation Department, it represented a burden off of us as a city. And so just more detail is all I'm asking for.
No, that's fair. Although I do think our financial picture is misrepresented when it's said that our financial, what Mr. Turner said was, when we don't fill a police department position because someone leaves, someone, in this case, last year, someone was killed. We can't just hire people off the street. They have to be qualified. They have to be morally qualified. In the case of a police department position, you're giving them a gun and a badge. They have to pass tests. They have to go through academies. It's not simple. Nobody, and I've made this clear many times, nobody would deliberately, I live here, nobody would deliberately not fund a police position. But when everybody in the state, everybody in this country is suffering from a lack of interest in being a law enforcement career, even highly paid ones, it's no surprise that we have the same struggles. Nobody's doing that deliberately, but it is by no means the chief reason for $600,000 surplus, or the surplus, the $200,000 surplus we had last year, that included paying off $700,000 in debt, and that was without any COVID money. And we're not spending CARES Act on operations. So we're actually looking pretty good. However, having said that, I think the question about the jail revenue is a good point, and something that we are watching closely. So, and the other thing I agree with is there should be a plan. So I just wanted to get your input first. Any other questions or comments on that?
Mayor, I would like to say that I would like to see our parks thrive, but I do agree with Mr. Etherly. I want to know what the plan is and how is it going to operate. If there some type of new things that's going to be tried, and how is it going to be funded?
Okay. I think, again, good points.
And as far as the playground equipment, with the $25,000, does that for new equipment or what is it? That's already.
Honestly, I can't remember. I didn't ask for that to be in there, and I can't remember what Mr. Turner said about it. No, I mean, he answered the question about it. But I can't remember now what his question was, but it's not something that I put in there. It's not something I requested that specifically for playground. If I remember correctly, and I could be mistaken, we'll ask Mr. Turner as soon as we can, is that's not what it was. That was sort of a misrepresentation of what it was, but I could be mistaken. So we'll ask him again.
Okay, good, because I would like to know if it's
Yeah, we
possible to purchase playground equipment with the money. I think that's.
I was exactly. I was going to say, if we have the $25,000, we could use some new playground. We could use 25. We could spend $25,000 fast just trying to upgrade the playgrounds we have right now.
That's true. I'm sure it's not enough, but it would be a start.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're not reopened yet. The state hasn't reopened them yet. But as I think after spring break is over and we see what happens with the variants on this virus and the people bring those variants back, there's some predictions that it's getting ready to be a lot worse because of that. But we don't know. And then at the same time, they just opened up. I should have announced this earlier, but the governor just opened up, I think, is it to C1, which is a huge group of people for being immunized or getting their vaccination. If we can, as a community, work hard to get ourselves vaccinated, that's going to be the way to deal with this immediate crisis and reopen our life, not just our parks, but our life. Well, I think maybe masks and some of these other things are probably here to stay, and not as ordinances and not as laws, but I think some of these things probably aren't going to go away, but certainly we're looking now, trying to plan ahead for when we can reopen parks and we can play basketball again and we can do all that stuff. Me very anxiously, because nobody wants to close a park. That's not a politically popular thing to do. Trust me, it's not an easy decision. And I can't wait to be able to reopen them, but we want to reopen them responsibly. And when we do, I hope we have some kind of a plan in place and a program in place to not just reopen them, but to return to a robust parks and tourism or parks and recreation program. But anyway, those are good points. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, so now it's what time? It's 7:30. So I'll take those into consideration and try to come back with more of a detailed plan. I just wanted to get your input, comments on it tonight. And anything that might come to you, it doesn't have to happen in the council meeting. Feel free to reach out to me any way you see fit.
Mayor, before you leave, I do want to say, because you were going to get everybody a copy of that budget, I'm sure it was just for me. I have found my copy. I see the recommended increases, 8,000, 9,000, 3,800, 4,100. I found my copy of proposed. Yes.
I would like one sent to me.
We were going to resend those out tomorrow.
Thank you.
So everybody will have the same thing and literally be on the same page. So if there's nothing else in the Parks and Recreation, thank you, Ms. Ford. If there's nothing else in the Parks and Recreation, then we'll move on to expenses over 5,000, which was put on the agenda and is in your packet. And to refresh the memory of anybody who guessed the ordinance, the state requirement, unless they've changed it to session, I think there was some discussion about it, is 20,000 as a limit for, that's the state code. 20,000 is the limit for mayor's discretionary spending. The ordinance, though, can be can lower that at the local level. And I doubt very seriously if anybody's changed that. So that's $5,000. So the question was asked, what expenditures have we had over 5,000? Of course, the question that goes along with that one is, were these expenditures approved as they're supposed to? You know, I'll only preface it by saying that because we have that ordinance, this is one of the things that the legislative audit does look at every year. Our most recent audits federal and state audits are posted on our website for anybody to see in the interest of full transparency. But they are looked at by auditors. But having said that, I'm more than willing to answer any questions about any of these expenditures. Yeah, I might not have, again, I wish Mr. Turner were on with us, but between Ms. Ramsey and I, we might be able to remember some. Or all of them, just depends. So anyway, this list is in your packet, so we'll take a minute and see if anybody has any questions. So the question would be, are any unauthorized, I mean, I guess, I don't know if that's the reason this is in here, actually. I'm just assuming that. Anyway, I don't want to keep everybody, but and if anybody should have any questions or comments about any individual expenditures on there, again, feel free to reach out to any of us in the administration to help you get an answer. Okay. Last thing on the agenda is asphalt hot box reclaimer. And Mr. Jones, are you on tonight? Can y'all hear me? Okay. I'm just going to address this real quickly. That's also in your packet. Mr. Jones, for public Department of Public Works Director, and Mr. Turner, we're going to present this, but what you see in your packet is an estimate, which I'm looking at. It's about 28,000. And what it amounts to is basically a asphalt hot box that you pull around on a trailer from a truck, a regular truck, you know, one of our regular trucks. And it's moved from, to make a long story short, it's a faster way to fill potholes with asphalt instead of concrete or asphalt. Asphalt takes many trips in an old trailer that's been around, I was told today, 20 some odd years. And they have to make a lot of trips, and it's not hot. There are a lot of issues with it. Then we also use concrete or cement, and that can be expensive. Sometimes it's not the right solution, sometimes it is, but people are impatient and some potholes are dangerous. So we have to fill them quickly. After an event like the snow ice event we had, all of our potholes that we had got way expanded to be much worse, and a lot of new potholes popped up. That's normal. We're not used to this kind of weather. We still have pothole problems anyway. Not blaming it on the weather, but the weather made it a whole lot worse. So we have some, and we still do have, and some of that's not city, some of it's state, some of it's others, but a lot of it is city. So this is a solution that other cities have found that Mr. Jones and Mr. Turner together presented to me, and I asked them to put it on the agenda. We obviously don't have ordinance to waive bidding, and they're not on to discuss it. So I'm just going to introduce the subject for you. See if I know about it. I don't know if I can answer your questions, but I can try. it's a lot more efficient, more rapid. It's hot asphalt instead of what we use now. There's also a seam. We have to put a seam on it after we put the asphalt in it. This includes a seamer that seams the project. I actually think it will save us a lot of money because we really contract out far too much of this work. And we do it more because of, I would say, we need more out of for reasons of time than we do anything, because people are anxious to get those potholes fixed. And so we often have to contract or subcontract out some of that work, and that's expensive. And still, even though it's quicker than our alternative today, it's not nearly as quick as what this would be, and it would mean less contracted work for potholes too. So it is a great
So,
option. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, does that mean that the street department is going to do this, or someone else is going to do it, be doing it?
It would be the city, and it would be the street department. Yeah, it would all be street department. It would not be contracted. 100% city and the street. We also, when we dig up, street cuts and for water lines and sewer issues, and we have to go back, that's an issue. So it does resolve a lot of issues. I'm not the one that came up with this, but I think it is a great idea. Any other questions? Good question. Okay, well, again, Mr. Jones or Mr. Turner, either one, or me, if you have any questions that come up later about that. And what I'll probably do is, unless we hear something otherwise, we'll probably put this on the next agenda to see if we could get it approved, along with bidding and appropriations. All right, we're at the end of the agenda. And it's almost 8 o'clock or 20 minutes till. Any other discussion? Any other questions? Awfully quiet. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Mr. Heatherly moves adjourn. Ms. Davis seconds the motion. If there's going to be no objection, the meeting is adjourned until the next call meeting. Thank y'all very much. Appreciate it. We got a lot done. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.